Aloha, everybody. Welcome to Tiki Tuesday Talks. Another day, now in September. Welcome. Big news for me. I got a haircut, first one in 5+ months. So feeling lighter than ever. We got a fun program ahead of us here. So we're going to introduce everybody. Aloha.
Aloha.
If you guys want to introduce yourself and let me know where you're ringing in from.
I'm on location. Hi, I'm Steve. I'm on location this week at Panama City Beach.
There you go. Well, yeah, wherever you want to go. Let's hear from you.
Noa Laporga here in downtown Chinatown, Honolulu right now.
Amazing.
Lana Galani, and I am currently in Denver, Colorado.
Adrian?
I'll go next. Adrian Eustaquio, Southern California, in Corona, California.
Aaron? Oh, we can't really hear you. But we know you're in Baltimore, and you look good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
There you go. So we figured out we got all the area codes covered this time. Literally east to west and then Hawaii time. So super excited. We're going to have a fun session here. I'm going to break it down for you guys. So Noah is the owner of Skull & Trading Co. in Honolulu. This is sponsored by De Kuiper, born and raised in Paradise. So really kind of bringing an interesting perspective from his experience being born and growing up in Hawaii and then launching a tiki bar. So as usual, chat box and questions. If you guys are on Crowdcast, feel free to ask questions, send notes, say hello, etc. You could share the event in the top right, or you can create a Facebook watching party. Tip jar, if you're so inclined, it's appreciated. Venmo, Noa-Laporga, Laporga. Presentation will be 30 to 40 minutes. We're going to do a cocktail session from Steva this time, and then 5 questions with the Tiki fam. So a little about Noah and as well Adrian, who's joining him. So Noah, owner of Skull and Crown Trading Rad Bar in Chinatown in Honolulu. So he's got a background in visual effects and spooky attractions. His partner Angelina also organized and direct the haunted plantation every Halloween at the historic Hawaii Plantation Village in Central Oahu. He was born there, native Hawaiian descent. And then Adrian hosts and produces Inside the Desert Oasis Room, a podcast recorded from his home, which he's in right now. He's a longtime enthusiast, active member in the Tiki community, and avid supporter of her revival. What's going on, guys?
Aloha.
Awesome. Thanks for the awesome introduction.
Yeah, man. Things are a little slow down there, but you guys have had a pretty good run. Your bar's pretty new, right?
Yeah. A year.
A year.
So we couldn't really celebrate our 1 year because of the shutdown, which was June 7th, by the way.
Got it. Maybe a post facto celebration.
Hopefully.
Right on. Yes. Right on. And Adrian, tell us a little bit about the background you got there.
Sure. So this is the Desert Oasis Room, and I built this in tribute to the old vintage Polynesian pop style bars from the mid-century. So it's it's just like creating that sense of escapism in the house that at the time that I built this, I had an IT job, which was highly stressful. But, we all look for escapism, right? It's why we go to the movies. It's why we go to the beach. It's why we do the things that we do when we're not at work. And so I just wanted to create a sense of escape here. And I record my podcast from here. That's why it's called Inside the Desert Oasis Room.
So, awesome, man. Cool.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Man, excited to do it. I'd love to go on yours sometime.
I would love that. Open invitation.
Vibes.
Yeah, open invitation to you. We'll set that up.
Yeah, right on. Maybe I could get to Wildwood to do it, which is where we host Tiki by the Sea usually. Have you heard of it, by the way? Wildwood, New Jersey.
I've heard of it. I've never been there.
Man, you guys
Yeah.
gotta make it sometime. It's like a museum frozen in time. It's an island in the very southern coast of New Jersey that blew up in the 50s and 60s.
Wow.
And it literally is like almost frozen in time. It's really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to check it out. All right, without further ado, let's jump into some slides from you, Noah. Kind of give a little context on your background,
Yeah,
where you're coming from, and all that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me, by the way, Pete.
Glad to have you, man.
I know I was kind of acting like a diva a little bit.
I'm used
you
to
mad
it.
at me?
Don't worry.
I feel like you're a little bit mad at me for us.
No. You would know it if I was mad at you, bro.
I know. Dang, I'm a local diva over here. No, but, I don't know. I just wanted to present some of the slides when we kind of discussed about things to talk about. And so I just wanted to do a little excursion of where I was born and raised and how I grew up here on the island. Because a lot of people ask, like, "Oh, why do you create a tiki bar? Why do you open up a tiki bar when the island of Hawaii is escapism in itself?" You know, so. But born and raised in Waipahu, if you can show the first photo. That's Waipahu Street. I was born not during this time. But, a
You
little
look
bit
good.
down the road, and then that's the sugar mill. So I kind of live near the sugar mill, and
Is it still operational?
no. So
Okay, yeah, I think so.
I think 3-4 years ago, I could be wrong. Need to fact check that, but they stopped the sugar mill. So actually, maybe 10-15 years ago. But they were
But it
still
was running when you were growing up over there. It was active.
Yeah,
Got it.
and I think they just recently stopped the practice of burning sugarcane in Hawaii, just a couple years ago, which is that. So while I
And
was young,
what was that about? Because I know what
Yeah.
happens with regard to this in terms of sugarcane spear production sometimes, and with our spear we don't do it. But what's going on there?
so the plantation, they would burn the sugar fields to kind of get rid of all the outer leaves of the sugarcane.
For ease of harvest.
Yeah,
Got
the harvest, because that's the only way. It's super itchy if you was ever caught like touching that, with the leaves on side or running through a sugar field, which we used to do back in the day and play hide and seek, kind of similar. I don't know if you guys do that in the cornfields, but that's what we used to do.
I grew up in Jersey, man. We didn't have cornfields, but I bet it happened.
So that's what we used to play in, and of course we got stung by centipedes and things like that. But as a kid, we didn't have interesting things like Instagram or social media, which I would just like doing. But that's why they would burn the fields of sugar cane. And I remember as a kid just standing outside in front of my house, and it would just ash everywhere. Kind of felt like
Can't be good for anybody's health or the environment.
No, it's just there's a lot of chemicals going in the air. And it was bad, which is why they stopped doing that. But I remember just standing outside every weekend, and it would be like snow and just ash just falling all over the city of Waipahu, because it would burn sugarcane in Kunia or just nearby. So it was an awesome sight. I remember it, but it's just like one of those things that you remember as a kid, which they don't do anymore now. So
we got a fact check for you. In 1995, they shut it down.
1995, the sugar mill in Waipahu shut down.
There you go.
Awesome. Perfect. Next slide. Okay, and so right now, this slide is a photo of Chinatown. The building that we're in right now was built in 1901, and there was a rat problem in Chinatown, early 1900s, late 1800s. So they tried to prevent the spread of bubonic plague by setting a basement on fire, doing a little test, which was a bad idea because all of Chinatown burnt down.
Wow.
So there's some places here in Chinatown. Some of my neighbors, they have access to, I guess, the foundation of the buildings, and like the bar across the street from us, they have access because there's a lot of these tunnels in Chinatown that kind of connect to the pier. A lot of illegal smuggling and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Happened in the 1800s, illegal trades, and but there's some people that have access to these tunnels and the foundation of the building, and they say there's a lot of relics down there from the fire and remnants from the fire. So pretty creepy, and yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's amazing, having been there in the last, year or two in Chinatown and subsequently a number of times, you don't think about it as being that old. And you really just don't, again, as an outsider, think about the history of Hawaii in terms of the cityscape as being that old, So it's really interesting to kind of have that context for it.
Yeah. You have another slide there. Yeah, there it is, 1899, bubonic plague outbreak. Which all started, accidentally spread, destroying most of Chinatown because they tried to set a small basement on fire to get rid of the rats.
So most of it was rebuilt at that time after that fire, effectively.
Yeah, some of the buildings, yeah, or I would say half of the buildings, but a lot of the structures here are steel and brick. So behind me, I'm not sure if you guys can see, but there's a brick wall. That's all original brick.
Right.
And the tiles that we have, well, that's new, but
Oh yeah, I remember those tiles. They're real old school. Yeah.
So old school tiles, everything. That's some things that we kept, that we wanted to keep, just for the ambiance here at Skull and Crown Trading.
That's rad. Yeah, that makes sense.
So everything is all old. So yeah, this is. I know the slides are kind of all over the place, but we'll try to get through this. This is a little general store that I used to go to as a kid on Waipahu Street. And they have these all over the place. And so Waipahu, I guess the demographic there and people living there mostly, or I'd say it's a mixture of Filipinos, Samoans, a lot of Polynesians there, but mostly from Filipinos. So there was a plantation there near the sugar mill. So during the early 1800s, the Chinese came to Hawaii, and the plantation was created. And so, as I said before, we're right across the street of the pier, Aloha Tower. This is where everyone from Japan, China, Puerto Rico, Philippines, Okinawa. It was just, this is why Oahu is the melting pot, because they came here, they migrated here to work on the sugar plantation, which is the area where I was born and raised. So, Chinatown, as I said before, a lot of trading going on. It was so diverse, multicultural. 1800s, you could see geishas walking around, and it was just like normal because it's from Japan. And you have Hawaiians walking around, Chinese, and it was just a crazy cool place. So, which is why we created the idea or the concept of doing a trading company here on Hotel Street in Chinatown. And there's still some trading companies around the place and stuff like that here in Chinatown that still exist, which is pretty cool. They sell mostly Chinese things, but not like how it used to be.
Kind of interesting question for me is, I know that the sugar industry was existent on other islands as well. What about Oahu really kind of made it this hub of international business that maybe wasn't as prevalent in some of the other islands?
Well, I think this is where it was started. So, I mean, our famous pier is right across or down the street from us, and that was like the main hub where everyone came, and everyone got dispersed into the plantation. The other islands got everyone went to the other islands as well to work on the sugar plantation, but for some reason, I'm not sure why it was prevalent here on Oahu. Yeah, I'll have to answer
Got
that.
it. So it really was kind of the central place where people came in from everywhere else.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
This is a little photo of Pops, Pahinui Kanikapila sessions, which is what we wanted to bring here to Chinatown too, because as a kid growing up, our family would always break it out into these sessions or these musical sessions where they sing Hawaiian songs, and it was just like every day, I'd go over to my tutu's house or my grandma's house in Kailua area on the east side, and the whole family would just bring out instruments, ukuleles, guitars, and start jamming Hawaiian music. It was a magical time too, when we used to do that as kids. So I said, if I ever own a bar or something, I would want that and continue that here. That's at the bar. So that's what we do here. It's called In Crown. So we have. I try to get people, Hawaiians, coming here to perform. So we have Kapili performing traditional Hawaiian music. Of course, Augie Cologne from Intoxica. He's the son of the famous percussionist for Martin Denny. We also have Star Kalihiki coming here to sing Hawaiian versions of famous songs. So it's really cool. And hopefully you experience that when we do open up again.
Yeah, I look forward to it. It's funny, I listen to a lot of like Hawaiian folk in the morning.
Yeah.
Because it's just like a really nice, relaxing, positive way to start the day.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah. So I'd love some recommendations from you guys for sure on things I should check out.
And so that's what the music we play here. We do play some exotica music, overhead speakers, but majority is early 1900s Hawaiian music.
Awesome. Cool.
Very nice.
This is a little map, I guess, of the little grog shops they used to have here in Chinatown. So I don't know why the map looks so weird, though. I guess it was different. I think this was pre-fire, so the building structures and shapes are different than what it looks like now. But there used to be a lot of grog shops around and selling rum, which is funny. But
that is funny. So specifically, rum was really prevalent within this.
Yeah.
Is that because it was rum made on the islands, or rum that was brought in, or a mix?
It was grog, so mixture of things like that. Yeah, it was rum brought in from the island, and I guess they used the sugar cane, but of course it was imported. I guess sugar cane was brought by the Chinese, right?
Got it. Cool.
This is an area that I was raised at as well. Every so often we would go here every month or every other month. This is on Maui, a place called Kakuloa. So there's a little village there, and beautiful place. We always do our reunions there, family reunions there.
Nice.
And to be honest, I mean, it was beautiful, but whenever my mom would say, "Oh, we're gonna have a reunion at Kakuloa," I would hate it. Because
I'll go in your place next time, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a kid, and it's a beautiful place, but the activities, I guess, I mean, think of it now, it's like, there's a tradition where they let a pig go, and all the kids go and chase after it, and kind of like Hunger Games style. And,
Hunger Games Maui edition.
Does he catch the pig again? So whoever one of the cousins would, catch it, they would be kind of like not raised on a pedestal, but they kind of be like, oh, so and so caught the pig, and
It's got to be hard. I'm imagining like Rocky running after the chicken, basically. Like,
well,
it's
this
gotta be
area,
hard to
but
catch a pig, right?
you can kind of see a valley there,
Yeah.
and then so it was like over there in that area. I don't know if you can zoom in, but I'll tell you something though. That road to that county there is treacherous. It's like, imagine Indiana Jones. It's like like they don't even announce how many people fall over or drive over that cliff.
Wow.
And so the cops, we have family that say, oh, we just don't announce it anymore because it's quite frequent. So
Got it.
yeah.
Let's talk about the spot.
That's my great grandfather. I'm just kidding. No. So I guess we're gonna try to get into creating an escapism in paradise, because for us, as I said before, especially for me personally, and a lot of the locals, we have to create something. I was talking to Aaron earlier, and we get cabin fever here on this island.
Mm.
And as I said before, I get a question quite a bit. It's like, or the question comes up, why aren't there many tiki bars and here in Hawaii? And I guess one of my answers is that people come here, and tiki bars were created for escapism, and you got the whole island of Hawaii, or Hawaii as a state, as a place of escapism in itself. I feel like people come down, but I know why people like to do that and all that stuff. But for me personally, and for whatever I've been doing, growing up, promoting events, especially seasonal events. People in Hawaii, were born and raised. I was born and raised going to the beach, fishing, surfing, and all that kind of stuff. So creating a different type of escapism for myself here was really important, to get not only the tourists coming to our bar, but also the locals here.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be escapism if you're around it every day of your life, right? It's amazing, but it's not escapism.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, to me, being on this island, I have to get off every month. That's
Every
me.
month.
Every month, I can't move away because then I'll miss being here. But I also have a business up in Los Angeles, which is a makeup effects company, and we build props and fabricate a lot of things for different productions, as well as film. So a lot of the stuff here in Skull and Crown was fabricated at my studio up there. So kind of incorporating our skills with that. So this is the Mo'o. So the story of Skull and Crown is just a trading company here where the collector likes to collect a lot of the mythological creatures here on Oahu. Yeah.
Mm.
So of course, every place they have their own story of mermaids and things like that. And then our story here in Hawaii is the Mo'o, which is the mermaids. So, which is right behind me. So
tell us a little bit about that story.
About the Mo'o. It's pretty much similar on the west side of Hawaii. There's the mermaid caves. People say they see. It's the same story, pretty much. They see or hear music or singing from but from the ocean, and they would see a beautiful girl, and she would enchant people, and she would drown them. Stuff like that.
There's a question that came up. What do you get as a split between locals and tourists in terms of the percent?
It's funny because it's like 50-50, I would say, but now it's more like, I guess for the past couple of months, it's been like 60-40, 60% locals and 40% tourists.
Right.
So that's our demographic, and it's so diverse. All of the workers that we have, there are staff, bartenders, hosts, are all of different races. So we have a lot of Hawaiians working, Chinese, Japanese, Filipinos, and just a lot of locals working for us here, Micronesians. And so that was important for us to open up with having that multicultural, staffing.
Right on. Talk to us about this.
So this is a tiki that we have here. This is like one of the main focal points here in the bar, which was sculpted by a master carver, Tonu. And this tiki, as a teen, I would always drive back and forth, or was displayed there for the longest time. Years, maybe decades and stuff.
Where is this?
This is on Kahuku side, so
Okay.
Northeast. But, as a teen going to Kahuku to go fishing and stuff, I remember saying to myself, if I ever open up a tiki bar in the future, that's what I'm going to get.
When did you decide you wanted to open a tiki bar? Sounds like you knew pretty early.
Yeah, I don't know. I was always fascinated in tiki and stuff like that, but Hawaii's version of tiki, because which is totally different than the original Down the Beachcomber story, right? Because we're so clueless down here. We're on an island, and so I would go to just like La Mariana and places like that too, and just places in Waikiki where it would be more of a tropical setting and tropical vibe. It was only until maybe 12 years ago when I would visit Los Angeles. I paid Tonga Hut a visit, Tiki Tea, all these places there, where I kind of understood where the history of Tiki came from.
Got it.
And so yeah, there's shots of the bar being built and stuff like that. Stone wall bar. So our family, one of our Calabash family people built that bar because they do stone walls all over the island, and so I was like, let's do a stone wall.
Yeah, that's awesome. Super cool.
And then there's Angelina. She's kind of touching up the tiki when we were setting up the thing. I guess they posted that photo on one of the newspapers or write-ups, and we got a barrage of people saying, "Oh, you guys sculpted that tiki? That's so cool." All she was doing was like brushing on some gold.
Right on. Awesome, man. Well, yeah, if anybody hasn't checked out this bar, Skull and Crown Trading, you got to check it out. It's amazing in Chinatown. Obviously, everybody's restricted, but hopefully we're back to moving around the world soon. So with that, would love to kind of open it up to you guys, bring in Adrian, kind of just chat. Adrian, maybe you want to just give a little more context for your background and your involvement in the Tiki scene and all that.
Started in the Tiki scene. Well, I've been a fan of Tiki since as far back as I can remember as a little kid. But what really fueled it for me was a visit to Don the Beachcomber in the mid 80s. And from there, I was buying lots of stuff. It was all Tiki stuff, not knowing that I was collecting. It wasn't really like I was purposely collecting. I just buy what I liked. And before I knew it, I had amassed a large collection of different things, from carvings to mugs to menus and things like that. And then there was this thing that happened, like in the 90s, I was by myself doing this thing. And it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm going to say like 99, 2000, actually. This kind of perfect storm of things happened with the internet. Became this thing that we all started using on a daily basis. The Book of Tiki was released. Tiki Central was this new website that people were congregating to talk about Tiki, and this community was kind of born. And so I've been an enthusiast of this subculture for quite a while. It's something that I grew up with obviously out here in Southern California, there were so many things that were Polynesian themed, and I've always felt this connection to it, you know. And so that's kind of my background in that. You know, in the early days, we were all learning about Tiki together. With Tiki Central, people were kind of just putting the information out there about, you know, restaurants they went to where they celebrated birthdays when they were a kid, or things that they had gotten over the years, things that they had found, and we started putting all these things together, right, and seeing how certain places stole artwork from each other, or maybe they shared the same style of mug that each had their names on it, and you know, that's one of the things that makes it really fascinating for me is the mainland history of it and the complexity of it, and especially the history of how it even got started on the mainland. Not just with Don the Beachcomber, but with the people that worked for Don the Beachcomber, the people that created drinks for him, the people that carved tikis for a lot of these older spots. So it's that Filipino connection, I guess, for me.
Yeah, and you're Filipino yourself.
Yes, sir. I was born in Manila, Philippines, and immigrated here when I was 3 years old. So grew up in Southern California, but I was born in the Philippines.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to have something that was inspired by this tradition, then circling back to you, Noah, in Hawaii, in like an interpretation of an interpretation or some such, and a hybridization of those two things. It's a really interesting piece in that way, right? Can you talk about that, guys?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, me personally, you know, big fan of Tiki, and which is why I wanted to create it, you know, and create my own version of it here in Hawaii. And kind of throw in the elements of what I grew up with and elements of old Honolulu, as you would say.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things collected here were from that early 1900s, late 1800s era, like the door on this side was from the Hawaii Theater from the early 1900s. So stainless steel doors. So I wanted to kind of throw in a little Art Deco in it because even the flooring, the tile, that's from early 1900s too. So, but creating, as I said, I know it's super important, the whole escapism, you know, for us here. Being a local and utilizing a lot of the flavors here in Hawaii, different kinds of fruits like passion fruit stuff here that we can go up into the mountain, kiave wood that we would use to smoke our meats and food and whatever, and use that in cocktails to smoke our drinks. Just the abundance of things here, sustainably here that we use here. So,
Can you? That's kind of a bridge to. Can you talk a bit about the menu at the bar and what that looks like, how you're leveraging some of those ingredients and that kind of thing?
yeah, of course. I mean, we have a lot of the cocktails, the traditional cocktails, 1944 Mai Tais and zombies and stuff like that. But we do have some things which we kind of play around with, and a lot of being on Hotel Street here in Chinatown. We're near all these Asian markets, and where we can pick up things like pandan if you wanted to do a pandan simple syrup. You know, we use that a lot in Waipahu growing up, Philippines, you know, they use pandan, right, Adrian? I'm not sure.
Yeah, coconut. Pandan is a coconut flavor.
Yeah. So it's like a leaf. And so just...
It's so good. It's interesting because it's really been adapted a little bit. Even, you know, good friend of mine, Nico De Soto, a French bartender, loves it, you know, and like I'm sure he encountered it from traveling and what have you. And it's interesting to see that, like, those flavors and how they move around into different cocktail traditions.
Yeah,
sorry.
Totally. And so just like right across the street, there's an area where I can pick that stuff up, or if I need mangoes, I can just go to my neighbor's house and just grab them.
Oh, nice.
Nothing like the fruit over there, man.
Yeah, just like before, this has nothing to do with the bar, but if we wanted pineapple, we would steal them from the Dole plantation. Like, nighttime, I was like, oh, let's go pick up some pineapples and stuff, and we come out with a load of pineapples just in the bags.
Wow.
And then
So you do that right now at the bar. That's where you get your pineapples. Go.
But doing some stuff like that, but even like I said before with the Kiave wood, I would just go up to Waianae and just chop down some wood, and we just use that for our cocktails, to smoke our cocktails. And I could just go anywhere, or one of my bartenders, he grows like lilikoi or passion fruit, and he would just bring that. So it's pretty cool.
Passion fruit's amazing. Such a great flavor. Really nice, kind of tart, sweet combination. How did you guys meet? How did you two meet?
Well, we didn't meet in person.
Yeah, so here's the crazy part, Pete. We've never met in person. It's always been Zoom. It's always been through text, emails, telephone, that kind of stuff. And I feel like I've known Noah for a long time now. We help each other out with our particular brands. You know, I'm a big supporter of Skull and Crown, and Noah supports the podcast as well. He's been on the podcast as a guest before. I think that, you know, part of the connection that for Noah and me, that at least I can say from my side, is we have this like tie back to the Islander lifestyle and the Islander heritage, which I think is, you know, from a perspective of mainland Tiki, I think some of that has been a little bit lost. I know that the mainland interpretation of Tiki is mostly not coming from the native islanders, but if you look at the history, if you look at Don the Beachcomber's original bartenders, they were all Filipinos. If you look at the carvers that carved these tikis, it was Andre Bumatay and Milan Guanco. They were, you know, two Filipino immigrants. And so these bars and these cocktails, you know, very much, I believe, were made in the image of the Islander immigrant that came to the mainland looking for their own fortune, so to speak. You had these bartenders that were creating these cocktails for Don, and, you know, a lot of the names like Lapu Lapu, you know, if all his bartenders were Filipino, and as far as I know, Don had never been to the Philippines, I find it suspect that he would take credit for a drink made by his Filipino bartenders named after their hometown hero, Chief Lapu Lapu, who overthrew Scotland, right? So you know, these guys, they don't get the credit I think they deserve. I mean, it was a different time. But I think that this kind of harkens back to when you look at that Filipino immigrant coming in and creating this atmosphere for people that this is a new exotic thing to them out here in the mainland. And it coming again full circle, you have Noah opening a tiki bar in Hawaii. And out here, you know, you have the Buon family. Ray Buon was one of Don's original 4 bartenders. He opened the TQT, and you have the Kabang family who opened the Royal Hawaiian. You know, there is a kind of a lineage there that kind of doesn't get recognized, and I think that's where Noah and I kind of feel a little bit of our connection. In that, you know, it's part of our identity, it's part of our upbringing, it's part of who we are, and the people that enjoy the tiki scene, I don't think they relate to it the same way that we do. Not that ours is any better, it's just that we have a different kind of perspective, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I think that, you know, one of the pieces of that is the history, and how do you make sure that history really gets told. And, you know, we, as being a group of people who love the drink culture, love the cultural aspect of it, want to make sure that we're having that conversation, right? So I think even talking about who was there, how they did it, how it relates or doesn't relate, you know, what feels celebratory and what feels, you know, kind of appropriative. Like that, to me, that's important for us to be having that conversation. So I guess with regard to the first, like, how can people who are watching this, who are bartenders from around the country or aficionados from around the country, how can they find out more about the history specifically related to kind of the Filipino origin of it?
Well, I'm sorry, Noah, did I interrupt you?
No.
at the moment, there's really only one piece of written history, which is a chapter in the Sip and Safari book by Jeff Berry. And he's the only person that's really documented the Filipinos in the history of Tiki. But to circle back to what you're saying, Pete, about what's responsible, what's not, how can we enjoy this responsibly and not be offensive? I think that there's a couple of things happening, and the term cultural appropriation. If we just take it down to the word appropriation, I think that there's different kinds of appropriation happening. So, Tiki was celebrated by Don the Beachcomber. It was celebrated by Trader Vic's. It was celebrated by Stephen Crane. These were the guys that were paying homage to the islands and doing things authentically. And it was something that they wanted to share because they appreciated this culture that was so fascinating and interesting to them. And they thought that the people here in the United States would enjoy that as well. But what happened is over the years, with devolution, what happens now is when you see something that's devolved to, a bone in the nose and a spear in one hand and face paint, that's when it becomes degrading. That's when it becomes blackface, and that's when it becomes offensive. And so, of course, people are going to cry appropriation when what is happening to what was done respectfully has now been taken out of context. And I find it kind of interesting that people argue that Tiki doesn't have a history or doesn't have rules or anything like that, but there is an authenticity, mid-century American Tiki, mid-century Polynesian pop style Tiki, and when those rules, or when rules might be a strong word, but when those common denominators, those common occurrences are becoming violated to where anything goes. If Tiki has no definition, then there's no such thing as Tiki. And when things get devolved that way, then you're disrespecting that particular subculture that existed, which actually paid homage to something that was true. I find it interesting that those that celebrate what the Tiki could be, whatever they want it to be, they don't see it the same way. Like when they get served a Mai Tai incorrectly, they take great offense to, oh, look at this Mai Tai, it has pineapple juice and grenadine in it, and they say that that drink deserves to be done correctly. But it's a part of this whole Tiki thing, right? That we're seeing devolving. And when I say that there's several kinds of appropriation, I think that a lot of the people that respect that mid-century style of Polynesian pop are the ones that are the reason why they're being upset about it devolving is because those that are devolved it have appropriated it. So there's that kind of appropriation happening as well, appropriation of the subculture. And the people that are crying cultural appropriation, maybe that's what they're seeing. Maybe what they're seeing is, a Tiki with a pineapple on its head, with leaves for hair, a bone through its nose, and giant garish teeth. And they say, hey, that's supposed to be one of our gods, like
right.
What you did to our god. This is something that we revere. This is part of our culture, and you've turned it into blackface. So it's a complex subject.
Sure.
And I know that there are people that want to approach it respectfully. I think that as long as you ask yourself, are you being respectful about how you approach this? Are you, again, I use the term blackface because I think it's the easiest thing to understand. Are you creating a Tiki blackface kind of bar? Or are you creating something that is in the image of the islands, in the image of escapism, like what Noah's done in Skull and Crown. He's created something that's very much what Hawaii is. And it defines not only Hawaii and the islands, but the history of the area where the bar is, the history of the neighborhood, the history of the district, the history of the building, and ultimately the history of the island. So.
Yeah, Noah, anything you want to add to that? I think that's
No,
well.
I think Ben hit it on the nail. I mean, that's why I asked him to bring him on.
There you go, brother the ringer.
He's like that stoic character that we talked about. Funny thing about Adrian is like, yeah, I think we only connected through Instagram first, and then we started building a friendship through that, and then part of our little group or members club that we kind of part of. We kind of got to know each other. But I remember seeing Adrian and a lot of write-ups and things like that. Even in the after getting to know him, I was like, wait, I think that's the only Asian guy in the Smuggler's Cove book.
I've never thought about that. Is Gecko in there?
No, Gecko's not.
Okay.
You know what's funny? Martin Cade actually mentioned both of you guys to me as people I should get on the show independently. So Adrian, I had intended to reach out to you anyway.
That's fine.
Regardless,
we could still chat, Pete. Whether
yeah.
Thing or I'd love to have you on my podcast as well.
That'd be rad. Well, a couple things. One is, first of all, I think you bring up a good point about where it started and the intention of it starting and where that went over decades, right? It really evolved in a lot of ways, not the best way. And I think that for us, what's important is to host the conversation. And there's no definitive answers, but we want to be a part of the conversation. We want to be exploring what we can do better in this tradition we love, respecting this culture, right? And how we can do that, at least coming from the right place on it. There is, somebody mentioned in the comments, and I did forget about this, there's a Punch article that just came out about the history of Filipino bartenders.
Oh, yeah.
That literally, I think it came out a week ago or 2 weeks ago or something like that. So that's another spot to check out. How do people find your podcast, Adrian?
How do they find it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Oh,
yeah.
Thank you for that. You can find it at my website, desertoasisroom.com. But it also, you can find it at all media outlets, iTunes, which I think is called Apple Music these days, Google Play, TuneIn, Radio, Player FM, Spotify.
Cool.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. Easy enough.
Yeah.
There's another question here. When's the next Tiki mug coming out?
For Noah or for me?
I don't know. It's undetermined. Let's talk about both of them.
Well, for me, I have another one in the works. The anniversary for the podcast is every October, and I have one in the works for October. I can't reveal what it is just yet. We're still working on it. There is a concept out there, something that, again, just going back to the whole quote unquote devolution of traditional mid-century Polynesian pop. Because I'm such a devotee of keeping things authentic, all of my mugs are Tiki mugs. And so I celebrate the Tiki because I respect the Tiki. And so every mug that I put out is some form of a Tiki mug. The first three that I put out was with Tiki Diablo, and we did a tribute to Malanguanco, which was one of the original Filipino carvers. So we did a trio of Malanguanco style Tikis. I did a Coco Joe's Tiki. I did a recent Tiki which was also paid homage to Hawaii, which was one of the original Hawaiian souvenirs, the Coco Joe's Ku figure. And the latest one will be something also Tiki. It will be a Tiki. It won't be something that is a variation of or something styled differently. It will be a traditional Tiki, but it's in the works right now. I should have a sculpt hopefully sometime within the next week or two, and I'll be teasing that once I have that. So
got it. Have to be on the lookout.
And I think Noah's got some stuff in the works too, right?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one complaint about us here at Skull and Crown from the tourists that come down, is that we don't have a mug.
Without a mug, it didn't happen, man.
I mean, quick story is that before I signed the lease on something, we were thinking about opening up shop. I had a bunch of my sculptors up in Los Angeles do affect stuff for movies, or sculpt things for movies. Create 2 mugs or 3 mugs. And when they created it, it was like, I was like, okay, let's mold it, and then let's start casting it. And we're talking about, knowledgeable mold makers dealing with epoxy molds and doing stuff, creating dinosaurs and things. They said, oh, we're done with our sculpts. What do you want us to do? And I was like, okay, let's mold it. And then they were telling me, oh, we don't know how to mold, Tiki mugs. All this time doing that. So I reached out to a bunch of people, Tiki Tony and a bunch of other people. I was like, oh, what are you guys going to do with the sculpts? How can I mold it? And, living here on Oahu was kind of hard at the time. So I sculpted my own skull mug. And then luckily there was someone here that could mold it and cast it. And 15 mugs. And that's all we've been using here. I think a couple months ago, during an interview with Gecko was like, oh, I got to show you something. Then he pulls out a skull and crown mug that he just created for us without even mentioning that he was sculpting us something. So super cool, but Gecko was kind of in his time, he only cast something a little bit in little batches, and he posted something a couple of weeks ago and it was sold out, so he has to make some more. So we don't have any mugs yet. Go to Gecko South Seas Art, and you can bug him to cast you up.
Right on. All right, let's get. I think we could talk for a while about this, and maybe we'll host this conversation in more detail with you, Adrian, in the future.
Sure, yeah.
We got a cocktail to make here, so let's not forget the beverage. Noah, you want to talk about this one, the Brazil 66?
About this cocktail, but here in Hawaii on the North Shore, there's a Brazilian community. So when I went to one of my friend's house years ago, he used to be a bartender. We had a falling out, so I don't really talk to him. So anyways, he's from Brazil, and then he created this. He's like, oh, have you heard of Brazil 66? And then I was like, oh, no. And he just created it and put it together. But, I liked it, what he made. And during the 1 year of us being open here, maybe 2 or 3 times I had to make it for some people, or some people asked if we made it. So I just kind of made it for them, and they liked it. So it's cool. But looking at the recipe, kind of looks like a Mai Tai, but with cachaça, and no orgeat, and of course there's orange juice in this. So I don't know. Yeah,
it's
never
interesting because
you never heard it, right, Pete?
Yeah, no, I talked to some Brazilian bartenders. I was like, hey, have you ever heard of this cocktail?
Yeah.
And they were like, not really. So it almost seems like, Brazilians in Hawaii were like, made their own version of Mai Tai, and it became like an iteration that happened there. I mean, I want to know more about it. It seems delicious. Steven's about to make one for us, but it's kind of interesting to see how these cocktail cultures merge and evolve.
Or like, I don't know the history exactly where this came from. I know it's a riff of spin-off of their famous cocktail there. I don't know. That's what he said. But I figure we make it out. So
Let's
something.
do it. Steva,
I'm ready.
you're ready to roll.
I'm ready.
Let's go. You want to talk about this and the ingredients and all that?
Yeah, we're using the Piper 36 Noa Laporga. So you can see it. And I have my makeshift cobbler shaker here because I'm on location.
Wow.
Look, waste not, want not. It's all about
Yeah, that's excellent.
So I'm going to start with the 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, and then 1/2 ounce of wine, 1/2 ounce of orange juice, fresh, obviously. Shout out to the Atomic Lounge who helped me press some juice. A little triple sec, also 1/2 ounce. Always delicious. And then some Noa Laporga,
Delicious.
Also delicious, yes. Always. A little ice in my cobbler shaker here.
Can you send me one of those? I really need one of those in my life.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Fantastic.
Look, I mean, it's great. Look here, got a little shake.
Man. That's the simplicity I like out of my cocktail shaker.
And then the best part is it like comes.
Wow.
So we're ready to go.
That's it.
Got
Fantastic.
got some pirates and some crabs and.
Oh man, that's definitely that's a Wildwood special right there.
It's gonna be a great addition when I eat my weight in raw oysters later.
So good. So good.
How do you like it, Steva?
That's great. It's great. It's kind of like an orange caipirinha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a caipirinha Mai Tai mashup or something.
Yeah. The research I did about it was that they named this drink after Pele in the 66
Oh, World Cup. Yeah, that makes sense.
where he was continually hobbled and Brazil didn't make it past like the semifinals because, everyone was out for Pele, obviously. So
Yeah.
that's where it comes from.
Those were the glory. That was the glory era of Brazilian soccer, 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Amazing teams. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Gotta get those cups.
Yeah.
So I can
It's
That's the mud.
great.
That's the old crown.
walk down the hotel street with just drinking that.
So if you guys want to make this one, post it up. Hashtag Tiki by the CNJ at Tiki by the CNJ. That is always appreciated. All right. We're going to bring Lana on now. Hi, Lana.
Hi.
What's going on?
Not a whole lot.
For a brief moment. All right. We've got 5 questions for you. Hold on. Actually, I got to put up this information real quick. If anybody wants to get in touch with Noah, here's his info. Noah at blackboxeffects.com, Venmo at Noa-Laporga for the tip jar, which I think Fetty set up for us, and at Skull and Crown Trading Co. on IG. And then Adrian is findable through all the means that we just discussed, Desert Oasis podcast in its various iterations. All right. Back to you. You ready?
All right, let's fire away.
You got the cats? Where are the cats? Oh.
Here's Cougar.
Cougar. Vicious animal. Wow.
Yeah, he's a princess.
All right. Worst cocktail you had at Tiki? Word.
Do you think I had any cocktails at Tiki?
Worst cocktail you had in Wildwood, New Jersey?
Oh, man. I feel like it's unfair to call anybody out in that way.
I want to hear it. The people need to know.
Okay, I had something, and I don't remember. I've obviously had a couple of years at this, and I don't remember who made this cocktail. It's not uncommon. It's just not my palate. And it was Fernet with coconut Red Bull poured over it.
Oh, wow. I don't remember
And
that.
I couldn't.
Just couldn't do it. It sounds like
do it.
calling that a Tiki drink as well, possibly. But hey, who knows?
You know, there is some stretching that happens in that environment.
That's true. All right. Favorite Tiki by the Sea memory?
Ooh. I always love the boardwalk,
Oh, yeah.
and I always love the architecture tour.
I'm going to add Steven.
Or even just walking. I honestly just straight walking around Wildwood, looking at all of these buildings that look like they couldn't possibly be real, and realizing that they're a part of some people's everyday lives and jobs and environments when it looks like a stage set
Right.
is kind of cool.
I spent every summer there from when I was 6 till whenever, 20. And I didn't realize
Yeah,
how
so
weird
you had the most surreal setting for these memories of your
I
childhood.
didn't know. I thought it was normal. I thought it was totally normal.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Mama, if your favorite memory isn't one of three things: one, hearing a story,
Walking down the street drinking champagne.
drinking pink champagne in front of pink champagne, duh.
Yeah, but that wasn't exactly legal, so I wasn't sure if I should bring it
Oh
up.
Lord! What do you think the Wildwood PD is going to find you in Denver?
Remember when you yelled at me for setting a bad example?
One,
Like climbing on the balcony of.
yes.
That was pretty bad.
So I've tried.
Want to get down from that is was my favorite thing to say at Tiki about the
You
Seafront.
literally said it, and 60 seconds later, she was climbing. That was impressive.
It's our relationship. Want to get down from that.
Yeah.
That is a lot of the relationships,
Champagne.
or the other two, outside of drinking pink champagne in front of pink champagne.
That crazy spider ride you made me ride on the boardwalk.
I forgot about that. I felt so bad. You were so mad at me.
That's a good ride.
I put Steve on not a roller coaster. It's one of the rides. It's the circle,
rotates
and everyone's got their
around.
legs dangling, and then it spins and does the thing.
It's a good ride.
Yeah. Not Steve's favorite moment.
It was me and Lana and Matt Eisman.
Shout out to Matt
I
Ivan.
think I'm the only one who enjoyed that.
Oh, definitely.
I love that ride. I really like that ride. But most of the people who went with me when I went on it did not like that ride as well.
I had the same experience, Pete, and you and I went on a different roller coaster or another ride one time, right? And Steve didn't come with us.
Yeah, I feel like there's certain rides that are off limits to Steva and Natalia at this point,
Yeah. At least we have each other for these things.
There you go. Exactly. All right. Favorite meal in Wildwood. Favorite meal.
Oh. The big dinner we do every year.
The clam bake. Or are you talking about the beach creek?
See, here's the thing. Those are both excellent meals, but for completely different reasons.
Post facto.
No, I was talking about Beach Creek.
Oh, Beach Creek.
Beach Creek is a good, it is its own thing, and it's great food, and it's a good time, and everyone loves it. But you can't beat the clam bake for being a welcome to Wildwood. Here's Pete's parents making you dinner.
I'm getting cranky.
And yeah, but
Best.
But nothing sets the mood like the clam bake.
There you go. That's true. That's true. All right. Weirdest thing you've seen in Wildwood. I want to drink pink champagne in front of pink champagne, by the way. I think that's got to be on my bucket list now. That's pretty good.
I think that's a good one to add. The weirdest thing I've seen at Wildwood was that burlesque show with the girl in the cloud outfit.
The cloud outfit was something else. Yeah.
Steve's face.
It was so great.
The storm cloud burlesque thing was just perfect.
I mean, my favorite part was that I went inside to do something and I came back out and I stood next to Tom Nevin Gluskin as her light merkin lit up, as her cloud merkin lit up, and she did It's Raining Men. It's honestly a highlight of my life, if we're honest.
I forgot that was the song.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was definitely, yeah. She had that merkin timed with thunder and yeah.
Oh yeah, and poor Tom and Jen just no one was ready for that.
I don't think anybody knew it was coming. That's part of the fun though,
That is.
It's probably more
absolutely.
fun than you guys, because I'm like, whatever, it's entertaining. All right. Tell us about the daywalker life. How's the daywalker life?
Surprisingly involves not a whole lot of day walking since I'm stuck in my house.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, you're walking around inside. Still walking during the day.
Sure. It turns out that getting up in the morning is not the heinous, life-ending transition I thought it was going to be. I don't think I've gotten up before 11 since I was 18. And so that was a shift that over the last year I have made, and I'm starting to appreciate mornings in a way I didn't think was possible.
There you go.
Health insurance is amazing. And aside from that, sitting in a chair all day kind of sucks.
You need to get a standing desk. That's the problem.
I refuse to like rearrange my entire house for this. Like I'm trying to like fit it in and not be one of those people that has a standing desk in their dining room. But that day might come. My physical therapist is
Well, there you go.
starting to get a little pushy.
All right. Steve, you got anything else?
I think that's it. Lana, thank you so much.
There you go.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see your faces again. I miss you all.
It's
Miss
like
you
we're
too.
drinking champagne and pink champagne.
We will do that again. We will make this happen.
But
All right, having everybody back. We're all going to say thank you very much, Adrian, Noah.
Adrian, Noah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Adrian. Noah.
Can't wait
Thanks.
to catch you guys in your various locations in a normal universe.
Right.
All right. I'll talk to you guys about next week. So next week, we're stoked to have Alex Day, COO of Death & Company and various other ventures, author, et cetera, et cetera. He's going to be talking on finding focus and creativity within limitations. So really about thinking about how you build cost structures, menus, and ideas in a normal universe, and then how you maybe potentially apply that in this current universe we're living in. Thank you for all for joining. Again, tip jar, Venmo at Noa.Laporga. Super stoked for everybody for tuning in. And we'll be back again a week from now. Hope to catch you then.